Joining me now, Defense Minister Anita Anand. Minister, good to have you on the program. You're announcing today $4.9 billion over 6 years to modernize NORAD. Apparently that money comes from Budget 2022. What exactly will that deliver?
We are very pleased to announce the largest investment in NORAD and continental defense in 4 decades today. We are making sure that we are addressing a number of threats. We are investing in detection of threats. We are investing in decision making from a technological standpoint. We're investing in infrastructure as well as research and development. So this is a full-scale, broad-based investment to ensure that Canadians are safe, which is our top priority.
Okay, there's some aspects here. There's something called Arctic over-the-horizon radar, early warning, northern approaches, polar over-the-horizon, crossbow, and space. Can you explain what all those things will do and when they'll be operational?
Sure thing, Evan. What we are ensuring that we are doing with the over-the-horizon radar systems is pushing further north our ability to detect threats and to surveil a broader airspace. And that's exactly what the systems that you just mentioned enable us to do. And that's why we're investing in them, because on February 24th, the world changed. We saw military threat of a different nature. In addition, we have climate change, we have economic threats, and we have the need to ensure that we have a full-scale, broad-based approach to detection of threats. And that's why we are investing in these 3 different systems today as part of NORAD modernization and continental defense writ large.
Okay, let's get specific, because there's the $4.9 billion over 6 years. When does that money start to flow into NORAD? Immediately? And can you give us a timeline as to when any of these new systems will be operational?
Well, it's a good question. I want to emphasize that this is the unwritten chapter in Strong, Secure, Engaged, our defense policy from 2017. And it is the largest investment in 4 decades in NORAD and continental defense. And as such, going on forward from today, we will lay out the timelines and the new capabilities and when they will come online. Until that time, for example, the North Warning System will remain in place. We awarded a contract to Nassatuck Corporation in January for $600 million to ensure the maintenance and the operation of the North Warning System. So we are taking a leveled approach here. That is, existing capabilities will remain in place until such time as the new systems come online, so that there is never a moment when Canadians are not safe.
But clearly, the North Warning System is not good enough. It can't really handle hypersonic missiles. There's, as you know, terrain detected cruise missiles now. There's emerging threats. North Korea conducted ballistic missile tests. The Wilson Center said North Korea has conducted 31 of those tests this year. I guess the question is, between the old systems that are clearly incapable of tracking the modern technology now, and when these new systems come online, what is that gap going to be when technically we're way out of date?
Well, Evan, I think you're right to point to the increase in technological advances in terms of hypersonic missiles, in terms of cruise missiles, etc. But the reality is that Canada and the United States have been functioning together in terms of NORAD for decades, and that will continue as we work together to improve and revamp our systems to take into account new threats in an integrated way. And that's a term I want to stress, integrated. When we think about different types of missiles, we have to ensure that our approach to surveillance is integrated, and that's what today's announcement allows Canada to focus on, an integrated approach to missile defense. And we will do that in conjunction with the United States.
So you've got $4.9 billion over 6 years to modernize NORAD. That comes out of Budget 2022, but then you've got a 20-year plan with $40 billion in what I understand is new money. When will that money start being committed? When will we know that about that $40 billion?
We are very, very enthusiastic today to be able to announce not only the $4.9 billion from Budget 2022, but also the $40 billion over 20 years, the largest investment in continental defense that this country has made in 40 years. That money is going to be allocated. It is fully funded in terms of our plan going forward, and we will allocate it to the various systems, some of which you've mentioned already, but the various systems that allow us to fulfill the 4 principles that the United States and Canada agreed to last summer: situational awareness, command and control, aerospace surveillance, and research and development. Those are going to be the driving principles going forward for the allocation of the funds, including the $40 billion that you mentioned.
I mean, you spoke about Canada's partner with the U.S., especially when it comes to defense. The U.S. does have a program in place to defend against intercontinental ballistic missiles, the very kind of thing North Korea is testing. Ottawa opted out of that U.S. ballistic missile defense in 2005. You mentioned that you were open a month ago to joining the U.S. on ballistic missile defense. I thought actually that may be part of your announcement today. Is Canada going to join ballistic missile defense with the U.S.?
Our policy on that respect has not changed. We will continue to evaluate the appropriate policies going forward for Canada in terms of defense writ large. But I will say that an integrated approach to defense, the one that we are taking, is more and more important, because as we are seeing, and as you said yourself, there are so many different types of missiles and new technologies that we need to be cognizant of. We need to have an integrated system.
One of the elements, there's the over the horizon, there's crossbow, and then there's space. A lot of the modern day space is called low Earth orbit satellite systems. They're both for consumers, but the military uses them because they have a different latency or lag time. Is Canada's military investing in low Earth orbit satellite security with the United States as part of this?
As I laid out in my speech today, we are investing in a range of capabilities, Evan, from aerospace surveillance to detection writ large, to new technologies in terms of our ability to make decisions quickly, to additional research and development. And so this massive investment of $40 billion over 20 years, which is fully funded, is going to see Canada being able to invest in a range of new capabilities in partnership with the United States for the purposes of continental defense writ large.
Minister, you're standing obviously in front of a CF-18 that was built, I imagine, somewhere in the early 80s, 82, 83, that plane behind you. So it's a 40-year-old plane. We're expecting to replace those with the F-35. When will we see the first deliveries of the F-35?
Well, thank you for the question, because it highlights the importance of procurements writ large for the Government of Canada. The Arctic offshore patrol ships, for example, 3 of which have been delivered of 6. And the F-35s, as you've indicated, we are in the final stages of contracting for the F-35. Minister Tassi has indicated that the first one may be delivered as early as 2024, 2025. But the reality is that we will keep making sure that our procurements are running efficiently and effectively. And in that regard, I will say that we were able to turn around a contract for drone cameras for drones for the Ukrainian armed forces very quickly, which is indicative of the approach we are taking to procurement as quickly as possible, so that the Canadian Armed Forces have the equipment and have the tools that they need in the short and the long term to defend our country, as they commit to do every single day.
Just last question to you, Minister. China's been buzzing our ships. Russia has been probing and building and investing heavily in the Arctic. Can you give Canadians a sense, now that we're talking about ballistic missile defense, or rather defense and early warnings, how much the threat from Russia and China from the Arctic and elsewhere has gone up in the last year, and if our security stance has to change dramatically?
The world has become a darker place, Evan. There's no question about it. I recently participated in the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, and I met with the defense ministers at NATO just last week. And we are in agreement that we need to be united against new and emerging threats, including of the types you have mentioned. Yes, that is of top importance for all of us, and including for our country. And that's why today we are very pleased to be able to announce that the defense of our continent and our partnership in NORAD is incredibly important to the security and the safety of Canadians, and that is our government's priority as well.
Minister, I got to leave it there. I really do appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evan. Take good care.